Let's start with a topic that continues to shape conversations across organizations: pay gaps. This isn't just a compliance issue or a headline, it's something that directly impacts how employees experience fairness, value, and opportunity in the workplace. Pay gaps don't happen overnight. They develop over time, often through a series of decisions, practices, and patterns. And understanding those layers is the first step toward making meaningful change. At its core, a pay gap refers to differences in compensation between groups of employees, most commonly across gender or race. What makes this especially important is that these gaps can exist even when employees have similar experience, qualifications, and responsibilities. That's where the challenge lies, not just identifying the gap, but understanding why it exists. Pay gaps aren't always obvious, and they don't show up in just one place. They can appear in base salaries, in bonuses, and even across entire industries. That's why it's important to look at compensation holistically. When you examine all components together, patterns begin to emerge, and those patterns tell a much bigger story. Let's start with base pay, the foundation of compensation. What an employee earns at the beginning of their role can have a lasting impact. Small differences in starting salary can compound over time, especially as raises and increases are often based on a percentage of current pay. That's why consistency at the starting point is so critical. When it's not there, the gap doesn't just exist, it grows. We've seen the impact of pay gaps play out in very visible ways. The U.S. women's national soccer team brought national attention to pay equity when it was revealed they were earning significantly less than their male counterparts, despite their success and performance. That case led to a major settlement and a commitment to equal pay, serving as a powerful reminder of what can happen when these gaps are brought to light. Now let's talk about bonuses. Bonuses are often tied to performance and are meant to recognize contribution, but they also send a message. They signal how employees are valued within the organization. When certain groups consistently receive lower bonuses, even unintentionally, it can create a perception of inequity. Over time, that perception can impact engagement, trust, and even an employee's decision to stay. Another layer to consider is industry structure. Some industries, particularly those that have historically been male-dominated, tend to offer higher wages overall. Others, often dominated by women, may offer lower pay. Even within those industries, gaps can still exist. So this isn't just about where people work. It's about how work is valued across different roles and groups. There are also broader influences at play, many of them rooted in long-standing societal expectations. Factors like caregiving responsibilities, access to opportunities, and differences in work patterns can all influence compensation outcomes. But it's important to recognize that these aren't just individual choices. They are shaped by systems, expectations, and structures that have evolved over time. For HR professionals, this is where the work becomes both meaningful and impactful. Addressing pay gaps requires more than awareness. It requires action. That means conducting regular pay audits, building transparent compensation structures, and creating policies that actively support equity. When organizations take these steps seriously, they don't just close gaps, they build trust. And that trust is foundational to a fair, inclusive, and high-performing workplace.